Growing Up White. It's Weird. Book 1, The Preface. Now, when I say growing up white, what I mean is this. My mother and father were both white, which makes me white. And when I say white, what I mean generally is Caucasian or European American, simply because my ancestors were not born in America. You see, they came from England, Ireland, Scotland, that area. And my guess is that they were unhappy with their lives, so they decided to hop on a boat, sail across the ocean, and land here in America to start a new life. Hence, I am here. Now here's the funny thing. I wasn't born in this country. I was born in Paris, France. So technically, I can't be president of the United States. But then again, would I really want to? What I want to focus on is a specific time in my life. I was born in 1960. And for the first 10 years of my life, my father being in the army, that's the reason why I was born in Paris, France, he moved around every 2 years. So we went from city to city, state to state, and the last place we were at was Hawaii. So I was around other non-white people. But the area we're going to focus on is from age 10 to age 28 in a town or township outside of the big city, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the northeastern part of the United States of America. It is not an isolated subdivision of all new houses. It was mostly a mix of older houses and just some new ones. And based on economics, I would say it was middle class. My parents were middle class because they both worked. And as my mother would say, you always had a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food in your belly. But more about her later. Now, even though I say we were middle class, the area had also lower middle class and upper middle class. Some people had a little less, some people had a little more. When my father retired from the Army in 1970, I was 10 years old. We rented a house in the area for about 3 years, and then they bought their first and only house. The house was built in 1910. Of course, it was old and needed a lot of work. And here's a little white weirdness for you. I remember my mother put newspapers on the windows because we couldn't afford to buy curtains. And often, my mother would call the house a mausoleum. Now that's a little bit of white weirdness for you. Most of my schooling took place in this area also. Grades 4, 5, and 6 were spent at a private Catholic school, OLP, which was all white. Junior high, grades 7, 8, and 9, was about 98% white, but I did know the few non-white students. Oh, and one of the teachers was a pedophile. And then finally, high school, grades 10, 11, and 12, about 95% white. But again, I knew the non-white students. I mean, look, it was no big deal. It was the 70s. When you're growing up in a white society, you notice differences right away. You have the basics. Tall, short, fat, skinny, attractive, maybe not so attractive, but also different skin types. For example, Italians had more of an olive skin or darker skin. Some Irish had very white skin. And then there was hair color. The Italians had very black hair, and the boys were always the first to get facial hair. Irish, usually red hair. There were some people who had blonde hair, and I mean naturally blonde hair. And then me, I had simply brown hair. My mother had brown hair. My father had black hair. My younger brother had red hair. That is a mystery. So there you have the basics of my growing up white. It's weird. So now, on to chapter 1.